Arezzo, not your typical Tuscan postcard. Or is it? Overshadowed by Florence, Siena, overlooked by tourists, but maybe we've all been missing out. Arezzo is a paradox, blessed and burdened by its geography, shaped by faith and fire. This is the birthplace of Petrarch, the stomping ground of Michelangelo, a city dripping in gold, oozing with high fashion, and echoing with world-class art and literature. Hollywood knows it, the world has glimpsed it, but now it's your turn. So let's dive in to the untold splendour that is Arezzo. Evidence of pre-Etruscan life dates back to the Paleolithic period, a skull fragment known as Olmo Man. Etruscan mythology claimed the goddess Artume founded Arezzo. She is the god of wild animals, nature, hunting. She was later identified with the Greek goddess Artemis and the Roman goddess Diana. The Etruscan settlement Aretim began on the hill of San Donato in the 9th century BC, and this would later become the location of modern-day Arezzo. Aretim was a leading city in the Etruscan League. Conquered by the Romans, Aretim was renamed as Arretium in 311 BC. The Romans quickly installed a garrison here on Via Cassia as they expanded across the Po Valley. Its role was to defend the approach of the Gauls from the Apennines on the road to Rome, as did Rimini, Ariminum, on the eastern coast. Arretium's economy thrived during the Punic Wars as a metalworking town, supplying weapons for Scipio Africanus' expedition to Africa. This wealth built the baths, an amphitheatre, parts of which have survived until today. The Etruscan noble Gaius Silnius Maecenas became a friend and advisor of Octavian and a patron of the arts. As the city developed, around 261 AD, the town council of Arretium dedicated an inscription to Lucius Petronius Taurus Volusianus, a soldier, politician, priest, judge, and imperial bodyguard. Unfortunately, he was apparently murdered soon after the murder after a conspiracy of Emperor Gallienus in 268 AD. Bishops acted as feudal lords in Arezzo during the Middle Ages, around the 3rd and the 4th century. The Roman city was demolished during the invasions of the Goths and the Lombards. The Lombards built castles, parish churches, and developed medieval Arezzo. It survived due to its location on Via Cassia, which divided the Gothic and the Byzantine Exarchate of Ravenna. After 1000 AD, local city magistrates began to constrain the bishops' rule. The rule by bishops was rejected between 1098 and 1384, as Arezzo became an independent city-state. Arezzo was regularly caught up in the crossfire between the Guelphs and the Ghibellines. Typically a Ghibelline settlement, Arezzo supported the Holy Roman Emperor and opposed Guelph, Florence and the Pope. The treaty between the Catholic Church and the Holy Roman Emperor, this was Emperor Henry V and Pope Calixtus II, was the Concordat of Worms, and this is about a place, in 1122, and this ended the disputes between the Emperor and the Pope and further weakened the ruling role of bishops in Arezzo. Arezzo suffered greatly after the defeat by the Guelphs at the Battle of Campaldino in 1289, and this saw the battlefield death of Bishop Guglielmino degli Ubertini. The influential Bishop Guido Tarlati saw to it that Arezzo became wealthy again after the disaster of the Battle of Campaldino. As Arezzo expanded, this saw a deterioration of the relations with the Papal States and nearby Florence. The unsurprising result was Tarlati's excommunication by Pope John XXII in 1325. Pier Saccone, brother of Guido Tarlati, an embattled military leader, was already pressured by Florence and Perugia, was surrounded by an economic crisis. What did he do? Well, he sold Arezzo to Florence, in 1337. Piero della Francesca created the frescoes of the Legend of the True Cross, which are found in the Basilica di San Francesco. Old Arezzo was redesigned during the development of Fortezza Medicea, the Medici fortress, which was built under the rule of Cosimo I de' Medici. Magistrates rather than bishops now governed the four quarters of the city. Porta Crucifera, known as Culcitrone, Porta del Foro, known as Porta San Laurentino, Porta San Andrea, Porta del Borgo, known as Porta Santo Spirito. Plague and famine struck Arezzo in 1525, and by 1570 bronze statues of Minerva and Chimera of Arezzo were discovered during excavations. In 1796 Arezzo suffered earthquake tremors, and this was apparently stopped by a miracle that was attributed to the Madonna del Conforto, a sacred image preserved in Arezzo Cathedral. In the same year, Italy wasn't so lucky. Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Italy. Arezzo was the centre for the short-lived Viva Maria resistance group against the French invasion. As Arezzo became part of the Kingdom of Italy in 1860, rapid development, strong population growth. In 1925, improvement of transport links and strong population growth. In 1925, the Palazzo della Provincia di Arezzo was built and frescoed by Adolfo di Carolis. Arezzo was heavily damaged during World War II, the majority of the city, as the Germans defended the city in July 1944 against the British and the New Zealand armies. Post-war reconstruction was at its peak in the 1950s, urban and economic renewal. Arezzo now developed based on the industry of metalwork, including precious metals, ceramics and fashion brands. So what do we do in Arezzo? Arezzo hosts a choral singing contest, Concorso Polifonico Guido d'Arezzo. It hosts an annual medieval festival in Piazza Grande in June and September. And this is a historical reenactment of a 15th century battle, the Saracen joust, Giostra del Saracino. Also known as Palio, knights from the four separate areas of Arezzo compete to charge at wooden targets that the townsfolk dress up in medieval costume. Arezzo also hosts an annual classical music and culture festival. Terre d'Arezzo is a Tuscan wine route. The typical local wines include Chianti and Val di Chiana. The Roman amphitheatre, Petrarch's house, Casa del Petrarca. The Cathedral of San Donatus includes a fresco by Piero della Francesca and the Gothic tomb of Pope Gregory X. Santa Maria della Piave, a 12th century Romanesque church. Let's look at the cultural references to Arezzo. If Arezzo looks familiar, well it is. It featured in Roberto Benigni's Life is Beautiful, La Vita Bella. Basilica of San Francesco appeared in the movie The English Patient, starring Ralph Fiennes. Arretium was even referenced in the computer game Rome Total War. Henry James described Arezzo in his book Italian Hours as, on the one hand, cheerful Tuscan mildness, and its market as a wondrous Italian tangle. Casa Vasari is a house rebuilt in 1547 by Giorgio Vasari and now a museum. Arezzo's two patron saints are martyrs Saint Donatus of Arezzo and Pope Gregory X. For petrol heads you can see the Mille Miglia pass through, a race of classic and vintage sports cars. So who are the famous citizens of Arezzo? Well, Roberto Benigni, actor and director, Guido d'Arezzo, also known as Guido di Monaco, a Benedictine monk who revolutionized a new method of musical notation. Michelangelo, world-class artist, yes, that one, born in Caprese, which is near Arezzo. Petrarch, top 3 all-time Italian poet. Giorgio Vasari, Renaissance painter, architect and biographer. Leaders of Italian lyric poetry, Giuttone d'Arezzo and Cenna della Chitarra. And in more modern times, Andrea Scanzi, modern-day TV journalist. Arezzo offers a taste of Tuscan cuisine, with local specialities including liver crostini, prosciutto del Casentino and pici pasta, which you will find across Tuscany. Click here to get even closer to Italy and Sicily.